Let's see how this works.
All right, black and tan. We are live. 0.0075% fast.
Maybe.
We are not.
We might.
We are not 0.007.
Whoa! That's Dave.
Super Dave is here. Can we hear him?
Yes.
Hey.
We made it work. I don't know how we made it work.
We'll never be able to repeat that, Dave.
It's all right.
How's it going?
Good, man. What's up, Dave? Dave Osborne.
Still got it.
He's still in his winded up Wednesday gear.
Yeah, he was winding it up, and today is Wednesday.
Dave, who won the sprint today?
One of our teammates, Clay.
What?
But of course, that's good. Clay's riding strong.
Yeah, he got away right at the end with ABRT guy, and they stayed away. And I got second or third in the sprint. No, first or second in the sprint. I can't remember. I think I got third overall.
Still good.
Still good.
Yeah.
Still good. Typical. So, man, we have a lot of questions to ask you, Dave. Dave, first of all, when we first started this podcast, me and Paul, you were like one of the first people that we thought of to have on
Okay.
the podcast. Yeah. Hold on a second. Hey, Dave, you got to turn it down, bud.
Me?
Oh,
No,
other Dave.
Oh.
He was helping us out.
He was helping us out. He's kind of, what would you call that? Audio visual guy? We'll give him that title.
He's your executive functioning. He's your audio visual. He's your peace of mind. This is the Dave from the shop.
It's Dave Friesland.
Yeah.
Oh,
He's in the background. He helped us get all set up, and he yeah. So it was working good. But yeah, so like I was saying, when we first started this whole thing, you were one of the first people that we thought of to have on because of your history and because of the legend that is local Dave Osborne, which is crazy because you're not even local. Like we went to Cali. When we went to Cali, we were people knew Dave in California, Southern California. Like
People know Dave everywhere.
people know Dave everywhere.
We got a text or a message from Jeremiah Bishop, and he said, "Super Dave." We put out a blast, and he says, "Never take Super Dave to the line. Never take him to the line." Jeremiah Bishop.
Yeah,
And I think Jeremiah, he's in Bolivia, if I'm not mistaken, right?
which is even crazier, right? But it seems like when we start to mention your name, Dave, people's ears perk up, right? They want to know about you. A lot of people think they know about Dave Osborne, but they're shocked to find out more and more about him. Like I was, I mean, there's a lot of things that I don't know about you that I would love to know. Simple things like, when you first started riding. Well, how old were you when you first started racing?
I was 22 years old.
Wow.
Yep, 22. So kind of late for.
Yeah, no doubt.
Where, Dave? Where were you at this point?
I was going to school at college in Tacoma Park, and I was riding from campus to NIH. I worked in a laboratory as a work-study program in college, and a doctor, Don Sorrow, saw me. I usually time myself from campus to work, and he saw me, I guess, hustling on the bike every day, and he was like, "Hey, man, you ever thought of racing that thing?" And then he sent me out to the Greenbelt Park races, and I went and got third place the first time in high-top Adidas, a T-shirt, and coach's shorts, not even cycling shorts, and a sport bike, not even a racing bike, toe straps, down tube shifters, and I never looked back. I kept going after that.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. I mean, I've that's very rare that you see someone just jump into it like that. But that just goes to show you that you're an athlete. I always tell people there's a difference between. So a lot of cyclists come into it late in life, and they realize that you can do well you can go to a certain point in cycling and not necessarily be an athlete. You can just be someone that's dedicated to training yourself. You can get into a training regimen. You can get on a trainer and just pedal, and that'll take you a long way. Like any other sport, I say it, any other sport that you participate in, if you threw a football at someone, it would hit them in the face, right? So if they try to kick a ball, they'd stumble over their feet. But that doesn't mean that you can't be a good cyclist. You don't have to have good hand-eye coordination. You don't have to have a natural ability. You can just have dedication and a good training regimen, and you can go a long way. So when you have someone that's an athlete, perfect example is like Clay.
Yeah.
Clay will come into cycling from hockey, and within a year, he's riding better than guys that have been training for 5 to 10 years.
Yep.
Right? Because he's an athlete. Right? Yeah. And I think once you get to a certain point as an athlete, you are used to turning off that hurt button or ignoring it at least. Where our bodies, especially as we get older, our bodies will just tell us to stop. And there's nothing we can do about it. Right? It's either you're going to listen to your body or your body's going to make you listen to it. But when you're able as an athlete, and you've been pushing through all your life through that pain, and you're able to say, you know what, I'm going to ignore that hurt button and I'm going to push through, you excel really fast, especially in cycling, because like, you know, Dave, a lot of it is mental to a certain point. Can you push through that pain when your body's telling you to stop? Can you push through it?
Yep.
So
tell us, Dave, you know, all right, so here I go to Greenbelt, I'm third. Tell us about your progression from that. Like, you know, you and I have talked about doing Frederick rides all winter long, you know, every Saturday and Sunday going out 70, 80 miles. So tell us about your progression from finishing third to, you know, where you are now.
So I finished third, and then I just kept going back every week. Then I believe I won the next week, and then I won again, and then I won my license. That was the prize. So I got to a Cat 4, and then I started racing, all over the place. And at the same time, I'm playing basketball. You know, I'm in basketball leagues, probably 5 leagues at one time. And then I wound up playing pro-am basketball and racing at the same time. So I'm racing all up and down the East Coast. Then I get forced up from category 4 to 3. And I win, I'm starting to win a bunch of races because I had good fast twitch muscles. You know, I could jump really high in basketball, so that helped my sprint. So I was kind of a natural at it, and I'm a thinker. So I kind of came into cycling with a little edge physically, and, you know, I can think through a lot of different sports.
Right.
Donald and I were talking on our ride today, and I said, you're probably one of the smarter racers I've ever seen, quite frankly. You know, you just, and people talk about, you know, what brake do you follow? What brake do you not follow? You figure out where you need to be in a race. I've watched you, and, you know, sometimes you're back of the pack, and all of a sudden 2 laps to go, there goes Super Dave through the middle of the pack, and he's winding up his sprint, which is a long sprint. Like, you have a long
sometimes 400 meters, but, you know.
Yeah.
So I was telling also Paul earlier about I feel like a lot of people sound like broken records when we get on and we start telling the same story over and over again, right? I tell the story about the first time, Dave. You don't even know this story. You don't know the first time that I saw you race, but I went to a race in Bowie it was when I was working at Pete Cycles back in the day. I raced for a team called Avalon Cycles or Avalon Racing. We went to a race. I went to a race with a guy named John Hughes. Yeah. And John, we pulled up in the car. It was a super hot day. It was just blistering. John pulled up and we saw you. I believe you had your Mustang. And I was like, you know, I'm a car guy, man. So I was like, oh, it's a nice car.
What color?
It was gray, I believe. Gray Mustang, right? So I was like, oh, nice car. So John goes, yeah, that's Super Dave Osborne. He's gonna win, right? And I'm like, all right, whatever, right? I'm like, the dude's got a name like Super Dave Osborne. He must be, either he has to at least be fast, right? So the race goes on, and that day it was so hot that John, the guy that I came down there with, pulled out of the race because he had heat stroke.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad.
Dangerous.
So he pulls out of the race, and the race is going on, and you like you said, Dave, you were in the middle of the pack, just chilling. Maybe a lap or two goes into it. Final lap, they come around. You're still kind of in the middle of the pack. It was like an uphill finish, and I was standing to the left. Again, sun's beating down. It's a bright day. And you came around the corner solo. You were off the front. And you came up the hill like it seemed like everything, it went tunnel vision to me, and I was focused on you, and you were all glistening in the sun and stuff. And you came up the hill, dude, and you were finally like halfway up the hill. The rest of the pack came around, and you won the race. And I was like, damn, that dude is the real deal, right? And I think that was a cat, maybe cat 1, 2, 3, or cat 3, something like that. But from that day on, I wanted to know what was up with this dude, Dave Osborne, right? So again, I don't know if you remember John Hughes, but he owns a 90 Plus Cycler. He's a nice, really nice guy, one of my good friends. But yeah, he was the first person that introduced me to you informally. But yeah, and that was my first impressions of you were that day. So you can imagine from that point on, the legend was just, built up more and more, So, that was my first impression of racing with Dave. And then Frank Johnson taking me down to Ivy Lane and riding with you guys at Ivy Lane, and how you orchestrated Ivy Lane, and pretty much you dictated how things were going to flow in Ivy Lane around what Dave is going to do and how Dave is going to move, and everybody moved around Dave. So
are you gonna ask him a question?
I'm sorry. Yeah, see, like I said, look, earlier in the week, I'm gonna go ahead and say it.
Go ahead.
Earlier in the week, I met a couple of my idols this week at the Baltimore Classic, right?
Yeah.
I met Bahati.
Bahati, yeah.
He's one of my idols, right? Legit. Before the Williams brothers, he was like one of my idols.
Me too.
Right? And he didn't live it down, man. He was super cool. This is the first time that I met this dude in all my cycling. I never met him at Interbike. I never met him at any of the races. I never ran into him. This is the first weekend that I ran into him. I got to ride with him, everything. He lived up to the hype of being one of my idols. Like, the dude is super cool.
He's a really cool guy. Down to earth.
I met Nelson Vale also.
Me too, yeah.
We're just going to leave that at that. All right? Another one of my idols, but sometimes it's best that you don't meet your idols. But just that. Dave, I'm proud to say you're also one of my idols.
Oh, thank you.
Right? And you live up to the hype, man. You really do. You're that dude that everything that anybody has ever said about you, and I've never heard anybody ever talk negative about Dave. Anybody, you live up to exactly what you would expect you to be.
What is that like? What is it like to be you're a role model for a lot of racers, not just like a black racer. You're a role model for a lot of racers, right? I mean, it's just in the community. What is that like for you?
The good part is I'm just being myself. I don't have to do anything special, but just pretty much be myself. And back to Bahati, he's a really down-to-earth guy and a really, really cool guy.
Yeah, I was blown away. You know what I mean? Like, so there was some art that was commissioned to him, and when I edit this for YouTube later on, I'll put up the art. I'm gonna put up some stuff about when some of your race wins when you come across the finish line. I got a couple of them that I found on the internet, Dave. But I'm gonna when I edit this in, I'll put some of those on.
Okay.
But Bahati had some art commissioned to him, and the artist didn't know the price. And I'm obviously not an art collector, but I want to buy that Bahati piece that they did. Trying to figure out a price on it and work a deal for it. I'm not rich, so the price has to be right before my wife doesn't look at me like I'm crazy. Gotta stay married. Stay married, right? That's number one. So, you know, as long as the price is right, I'll have a custom piece of artwork done by one of the artists that unveiled it at the Baltimore Classic this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're a racer,
A
basketball player, reptile enthusiast,
right?
Bro, what is up with the reptiles, bro?
I'm telling you, since I was in high school, there was a guy that would come around to all the schools with this boa constrictor to show the kids. And, you know, I found it so fascinating. And I'm like, man, I want a snake. And I was telling my mom I want a snake. And, you know, we're from the islands, Trinidad. And, you know, she's not having that. So that was out. So I had to wait till I grew up, got out of school and everything to get my own. But I just had a fascination with snakes from that one guy bringing the snake around all the school. That's how I got into them. So I wound up catching all snakes and identifying them. So
how many snakes do you have now?
Right now I have 3 boas and a milk snake. So 4.
Actually, what is a milk snake?
A milk snake is actually local to our area, but it's an albino one, and it's a constrictor, so everything is non-venomous, but this happens to be albino, and it's yellow and white and a little lavender and orange, and that snake is actually Cheryl's snake. We went to a reptile expo to look for a boa, and she saw this milk snake, and it was so pretty, and you know, she's like, "Oh, let's get this one." I'm like, "Okay," and it's she named it Skittles. This has colors. So it's actually her snake, and I have 3 boas.
So you come from a racing family. Your wife races as well. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your team, your wife, and what kind of role she plays?
We want to know what's it like to be married to a national champion. That's what we want to know.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, once she became a national champion, she didn't see me, but I did cry.
That's legit, bro. That's legit.
I was so happy because she worked so hard for years. And finally, you know, when you get that jersey, it's like, you know, it's like, man, I got it. You know, nothing else really matters after that. You know. But anyway, so good thing is we're married and we both ride, so we can ride together. And you know, she knows a lot about the lifting side, which I need to get back in the gym and start lifting. And, you know, I'll help her out with, you know, the cycling side. And winning the nationals was like, I may have well have won the race myself because I was so happy.
That's so cool.
I can imagine. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, there's probably, someone that you love and someone that you're so close to and that you've seen that come up and everything like that. Sister, brother, son, daughter, wife. Yeah, I think I would be the same way, man. I think I would kind of be living through them.
Yeah, because I've watched her take ladies, drive them all the way up to T-Town, Pennsylvania. That's Lehigh County Velodrome in Bringsville, Pennsylvania, near Allentown and Trexlertown. But she's actually driven ladies up there to introduce them to track racing. And it's not like a short drive.
No, I made a mistake and drove from Baltimore on a heavy traffic day on my motorcycle once to Trexlertown with Mark Frazier, Randy Brown, and I can't remember who else went up there with me, but I said, hey, I thought it'd be a cool idea for me to ride up in full leather, right, on a summer day. Like, oh, I'll ride up there. I'll meet you guys up there. Man, I sat in traffic on that motorcycle and baked for like hours.
You probably lost 15 pounds.
It was the worst. Next to riding one of my street bikes to Ocean City and being caught in that traffic once, that was probably the second worst experience I had on a motorcycle.
Man, you probably melted.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. But yeah, Cheryl's really, I like to say she's firm but fair. You know what I mean? Like Cheryl's kind of, she don't take no mess.
Right.
She doesn't take no mess, man. But she's a really nice person. Like once you get to know her a little bit, and she knows that you're not like here to cause any issues.
Mm-hmm.
She's a sweet person as well.
Yeah.
I've had the pleasure to travel with Cheryl and Dave to California, and we hung out in Cali, and man, it was a great trip. And like I said, when you travel with someone, you get to really know their personalities. That's why me and you travel more.
There you go.
And Dr. Cheryl, she's one of the founding members of Artemis. It was founded in 1999. It started as a women's team, so there were only women on the team. And then I joined, and then a couple of guys joined, and now it's men and women. But our mission remains to help women in cycling, in racing and cycling. That's our mission. And all the guys that join have to kind of stick to that mission as well, which they do. We have a really great group of women and men as well, who always look out for the women on our team.
Artemis has always seemed like it was like more of a family type team. Like people stick with Artemis for a long time. The core people have been with you guys for a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've been mentoring a lot of those riders, both male and female, right? So what do they ask you, Dave? What do they come up and say? Hey, can you tell me about this? Because they want to be like you, right? They want to come up around the corner alone, or they want to come up through the mid pack and win the sprint. So what do you tell them?
So I try to give them some motivation, sometimes by example. Like with the way they see me ride, they'll sometimes try to mimic what I'm doing and learn some tactics, how to be patient and things like that. So I teach little basic tactics, don't chase your teammate. And these training rides we've been doing, these rides from like Fairwood, they've been really helping the team, because I can watch how the guys have gotten super savvy and tactically they ride the rides like a race, and it works out really well.
Yeah.
I don't think Artemis does a ride that's not really a race, Dave.
No, yeah. It's also what I've noticed is, so
I mean, just to be clear, when I'm there, it's usually a race.
Yeah.
On race.
So one thing that I've noticed with Artemis is now that you've had more teams locally come around. So in the Bowie area, you now have FaZe, you now have GII. Back in the day, those teams weren't there. Now that they're there, the local rides tend to really feel like a race, because these guys are coming up, from their teams and challenging a little bit. Before we used to have, back in the day, I'm trying to think of some teams that may not be around, but Harley would come out every now and then, and they would make it seem a little,
spicy.
Yeah, but I don't remember it being the way it is right now. I mean, Wind Up Wednesday, when we went down a couple of Wednesdays ago, I got dropped off the back of Wind Up Wednesday, and I pretty much cruised in with a couple of guys, just chilling, coming in. I still came in at a 21.5 average mile an hour. And when I got home and looked at what the lead group came in, I think you and a couple other people came in at 24 and a half miles an hour average.
Yeah.
It was getting
We were only 3 miles ahead of you.
Yeah, well, at one point. But listen, that was supposed to be technically that's supposed to be a rollout. But I can tell you now that we chased.
Nobody got the memo on that.
Yeah. We chased for sure. One of the other Artemis guys, Uncle Cliff is what we call him. He pulled up next to me and told me to chill out. He goes, you better. He goes, you need to save those bullets. Is what he said. He said, save those bullets. And I probably shot way too many because even on Wind Up Wednesday, coming out of the corners with all the teams there, man. We're on a ride, not a race. And I think I hit over 1,000 watts like 5 or 6 times coming out of corners to try to hold on. So that's how spicy it gets sometimes.
And some of the bike doctor guys come out and they really push it as well.
Everybody's there. You go to those local rides now, and you need to understand that there's a difference between race clubs and like regular riding clubs. Like you come to a Velo City, we'll get some of the racers that'll come out to Velo City, but for the most part, it's a club ride.
Yeah.
Right. If you go to a Wine Wednesday, it's not a club ride. That's not a club ride. That's a like I said, it's pretty much practice.
Yeah, it's racetrack.
Yeah, it's
but that's why Dave is saying he's watching these young guys get involved in that, and they're watching what goes on, and they're learning in that scenario without paying USA Cycling $45 to do it.
Yeah. Some of the people that ride and Wind Up Wednesday will never race.
Right.
No desire to race, but they're strong enough to keep. If you're strong enough to end that ride with the lead group, you could race if you wanted to.
Right. Exactly.
You could race if you wanted to. From someone I've gone up and down with my riding. I've raced mountain bikes as semi-pro Cat 1 all the way, down to whatever, and then back up. And for someone that's been on really fast rides, that's a fast ride. That's a hard ride.
Definitely.
But, so
let's ask. Desiree asked a question of you, Dave. Have you ever ridden a major tour? If not, did you have a desire to?
I've done like some stage racing. I've done like it was called Tour de Tuna in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It was a big race. I've done the Fitchburg stage race in Massachusetts. I've done the Bermuda Grand Prix. I've done the Tour of the Bahamas.
What was the maximum stages? How many stages?
4 days. But I've never done of course not the Tour de France, but like a 10 or 15 day stage race or anything like that.
Not like Tour de California or something, or Redlands, right?
I've never done that one. But I've done tons of races up and down the East Coast and a few overseas. But no, I've done even some, actually I did do some UCI elite races in Puerto Rico. And actually in Pennsylvania, there was a race called the Univest Grand Prix where Christian Vandevelde, Dave Zabriskie, and I don't know if you know Tyler Farrar, all of those guys were in my race. So it was that was probably the most decorated field. That was a pro race, UCI Elite.
How has your training changed over the years? I mean, I remember, you started at 22, you're a little bit late, but obviously you're doing well. How have you changed? Maybe you haven't, but how have you changed your training, if at all, over the years?
I'll be honest. Like I was saying earlier, I'm more of a natural, so I really haven't changed much. The only difference is we used to have more training races back in the day, which I think helped me a whole lot more because we used to have races in Druid Hill Park. There was a hill, and it had a hill every lap, and they rang preem, so we really were getting into it. I used to race with Chris Etor. I know you know these guys. Chris Etor, Dave Duval.
Dave would show up on a mountain bike with a big gear mountain bike and just wind it up. So in that race series, it would be Dave Duvall, Chris Etal. I don't know if Chris raced there, but definitely he was around at that time. I think Jeremiah may have come out once or twice. But it was a lot. Some of the local messengers would come out, but
Ken Anderson,
Ramon Benitez.
Home was there. We were teaming.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, I'm not for sure if I know Mark Frazier was racing at the time, but yeah. I'm not for sure if he was if he ever raced out there.
I don't think I saw him there.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a great course. Great course. As a matter of fact, when we were last out there during the cross event, I was trying to put it together in my head and see where it was, but I couldn't quite remember the course. And it was a simple course. It just went up towards up the hill.
Yep.
Literally, like you said, you went down, you made a sharp left, you climbed up. It was like a two like tier stage climb every lap.
It was tough.
It was awesome. It was awesome. It was fast.
Before you know it,
if you could just hold on for the hill, everything was about that hill.
Yeah.
Hold on for the hill. So I was able to hold on because it wasn't long enough. It wasn't that long of a hill. I mean, we're talking 10, 15 seconds?
Yeah.
The hill? Like 10, 15 seconds.
But they went
up the hill.
Yeah.
And then after the hill, it was all downhill and around the corner to the start finish line. And it was just blazing fast. And it was a little sketchy. The corners were a little sketchy, a little dirty. But yeah, they stopped that race because they couldn't control traffic.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a car got onto the course and hit some of the riders.
Oh.
And it was one of the riders that got hit, I believe, was a state trooper.
Oh.
Yeah, not that makes his profession, but it was one of those things that was, unfortunately, they couldn't control the traffic and people coming onto the course. It was funny because it was way before the motorcycle kids came out, right? It was way before the 12 o'clock boys. So we didn't see any of the motorcycles on the course or anything crazy like that. But it was tough. So before that, there was Druid Hill in Baltimore. I mean, not Druid Hill. There was Lake Montebello.
Yeah, I did that.
Baltimore. Did you do that?
I did that a couple times.
Okay.
That was flat.
That was before me. I never did Montebello. I did hear about it, but at that point, it was before I even thought that I would even want to get onto a road bike. I was straight mountain biking then.
Yeah.
What are your favorite races now, Dave?
Right now, that's a good question. Probably when I go to race in Puerto Rico, just because it's kind of like a vacation race time. So,
how many races do you do down there when you're down?
Usually about 4.
Okay. There's a particular time of year that you guys, I know both you and Cheryl go usually.
We used to go in May every year, but now there's a Vuelta it's in June. It's in July, so it's pretty hot, which I acclimate pretty good to the heat.
And Artemis has like a sister team down there.
We do have a sister team in Puerto Rico, so Gigante.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So you guys hang with them, you ride with them, you race with them.
Yeah. It's a really, really fun trip.
Yeah. How long have you guys been doing that?
We've been going there about 20 years now, so it's been a while. Yeah.
So Paul, you used to be part of Artemis at one point. Yeah. Paul was an Artemis guy.
I'm a recovering Ivy guy.
Ivy Lane guy. We're all recovering. Ivy Lane was probably one of the first times that I felt like these guys, I gotta come out and prove that I can hold on. I used to come out to Ivy Lane with my flat handlebar, single speed bike, and people used to be like, "Who's the guy on the hybrid?" And they would pop me off the back. Then Frank Johnson would get mad at me and like, "Man, you gotta come out and be serious. If you're gonna come out, if I'm gonna bring you up here, you need to represent me, right? Stop coming up here and look in a certain way. You need to come up." He would dog me.
Yeah. I could see him saying that too.
He would hate it, Dave. He would hate that I would come up and like draft cars and do things like that. And he'd be like, "Don't do that again. If I'm gonna bring you up, don't do that again." Similar to you get on me in a way like that, Paul. Paul got on me recently because of me not looking the look, right? Like I understand. For me to have a bike shop, I probably should have some good looking gear.
Now we're going. Okay.
Again, the mountain biker in me comes out a lot, right? Like I feel like it's okay for me to wear a jersey with a little hole in it or something, or maybe maybe I've worn it a little too long, and maybe my butt, you can see my butt a little bit.
Dave, don't believe the hype. He was wearing bibs that were 19 years old.
They were my favorite bibs,
and he wondered why I never draft off him because you didn't want to see that, Dave. If you know what I mean. So
19 years old.
Yeah, they were a little old. They were a little old.
You got him at a Tour de France that you had been like 19 years prior.
So I got they were my Alpe d'Huez bibs that I had got when we went to the Tour de France in 2017. So they weren't that old. They weren't the first ones. They weren't the first round.
All right.
But all right, so back to Dave. Dave,
I want to ask this question. Joseph White asked a question. Right? You want to do it?
Yeah. Do you think the popularity of sports will keep growing in the Black community? Do you think bike cycling?
Do you think it will keep growing in the Black community?
I think cycling as a hobby will most definitely keep growing because so far every year, like I just came back from One Love weekend, and every year it's bigger and bigger. There were 2,000 registrants in One Love. Huge. I'm talking about outstanding weekend. It was so many people there, But
did you win? That's going to be one.
Did you win? Did you win the
it's
one?
It's not a race.
It's not a race, but it is a race.
It got a little confusing because there were a couple rest stops and a couple incidents where people normally stop together, but then some people never stopped, so it got kind of mixed up. So the guy that's normally in charge, he was riding a metric with his son, so he didn't ride with us to keep things under control. But it was a tough ride. We had some Legion riders, some Miami Blazers, and the Aviators pro cycling team there as well.
So all three of those teams, Legion, Blazers, and Aviators, are all teams that Justin Williams has developed himself.
Right.
Me and Paul were talking about how they've changed the way cycling is viewed. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like they're going in the right direction with that? Because and I know it's completely different than it was 10 years ago before Justin and Corey kind of started doing their thing. And now there's merch being sold. I mean, they're selling hats. They're selling jerseys. I was saying to Paul earlier, the only person I knew that sold merch before Justin and Corey like that was Lance Armstrong with the Livestrong bracelets.
Oh, yeah. I think everybody had.
Everyone had a Livestrong bracelet. But I don't know in the cycling industry where individuals sold something based on themselves, like merch like that. Now, I've seen people sell jerseys, but it was like Telecom or Postal or something like that. I've never seen an individual in the cycling community sell like merch that was connected to their brand, their personal brand.
What do you think about that they're doing for the sport, Dave?
Well, actually, Rashan Bahati sells kits, and a ton of people have his kits.
Now they do. Now he does.
Yeah.
But did he do that before Corey and Justin?
Yes, he did.
Did he? Okay. So again, I didn't. If he did, I didn't see it at the level that I see when you go to a race. You don't see Team Bahati jerseys. You do now. When you go to a race and the fans on the sideline, you'll see Bahati stuff now.
Yeah.
But when you go to a crit race and Legion's going to be there, you see the hats, you see the shirts. There was a whole family at the Baltimore Classic that walked past me that had all Legion gear on.
Yeah.
It was crazy. So, I haven't seen it grow like that.
Does he like what it's doing for the sport?
Well, promoting and selling the kits is cool. And the only thing that I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest, is that national cycling league that they have, where you can, I don't know if you all watched one of the races. It's a point where you can substitute riders. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, say if I'm in the race, I get tired or whatever, I'm like, okay, I'm coming out. And then I sit out for a little while. And then
That's crazy. That's crazy. Like I said, it's almost like they're making their own rules up. Yeah. I like it. I think it's crazy, right? Yeah. I get what you're saying. I feel like, man, they're like literally tagging in and having another person. Have you seen? You know what he's talking about?
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing. Yeah. I think that they're on the right. They're trying to make it a spectator sport.
Yeah.
Right.
And one thing I think that they should do, because to grow the sport, I think you have to grow the sport from the bottom up. They seem to be doing it from the top, because there's pros in that league. And I think if you had a junior national cycling league, that would be off the chart awesome. That's the future of the sport.
100%. I think. We say it all the time, but the youth, and that's what we're doing as Black and Tan. The whole reason we're getting together is so we can help develop some of the youth stuff. Once we promise we will definitely have merch out for everybody to buy, but we're going to be 100% nonprofit. We want to get to the point where we can actually write checks to these smaller,
to Baltimore. Pricing, all this stuff.
Yeah, and hopefully grow to a larger scale. Yeah. But that's our objective. So You're 100% right, Dave. It has to start with the youth.
Yeah, because it's cool to watch the pros, but I think because even remember the race in Philadelphia? They used to have a juniors race before the race. Back way. And that was really cool.
Are we talking about the one that went up the Maniac wall?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great race.
Yeah. Did you do that one, Dave?
No, I went to watch it though every year.
Yeah, I had no desire. Dude, that was brutal. Yeah. That was brutal.
Rion, my teammate, did that back in the day.
Did he?
He did. Yeah.
Shout out to Rion, by the way. Hopefully he's healing up well.
Yeah, I just saw him last night. He's getting better slowly.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Really good guy.
Yeah. So, but we also noticed that, Dave, you don't have like a modern bike. You don't run.
Right.
What's up with that?
And it's sort of I say on purpose, but right now I'm going to announce it. I'm on 10-speed mechanical rim brakes.
Giant, I'm telling you. Was it 62? Is it a 62?
Still taking names. 61. I'm probably not the best person for bike marketing.
My dude, you do. That's wild. That's wild. I love it though. I mean, look.
But it's Dura-Ace. It's got zip tubular. It's good stuff. But it's just not the latest disc brakes and compact gearing and things like that.
Does anybody that sees this video that wants to help me get Dave on the sickest new bike out? This is a guy who influences what goes down in his market. I promise you. If you wanna hook someone up with a bike, Dave Osborne is the guy you hook up. Promise you.
And it's not like Dave doesn't like nice things. Like his car is a nice car.
Yeah, his car. He's a car guy. But it's like you can tell a lot. See, if you're in the cars, you can tell a lot by a guy in his car with his cars, right? Dave's cars, he has very nice cars. Not the newest cars, but they are all nice.
Yeah.
Same thing with his bikes.
Yeah.
Not the newest bikes, but they're all nice. It's like you said, it's all good stuff. I don't don't know. I don't know if he's going to go faster on a new modern bike. To be honest with you.
What about racing in the rain in a crit? Would you want disc brakes then? Did you ever think?
Well, the good part is I don't do crits in the rain, so I'll never, you know, I don't, you know, normally I'll be in a crit, and as soon as I see the tire track, you know, you can see the track, you can see the tire. That's
right.
I'm out. Yeah,
You call it quits.
Call it quits.
So
even though I was in Puerto Rico this year, and it did start raining, and I stayed in the crit, but then it stopped and dried up. But I was in my mind, I'm like, Cheryl was like, oh, he's gonna. Sorry about that. Cheryl was like, he's gonna come out, but I stayed in.
Well, she knows you. Yeah. She knows exactly what's going on. No, I don't blame you. I don't think I'm not brave. It's so funny. I grew up thinking that I was really brave on a bike, and I know that I'm not brave enough to race crits. You have to be mentally there to race crits, and if you're not, don't enter one. And I know I'm just not mentally there right now in life. As many chances as I've taken doing other things, I'm just not mentally there enough to race a criterion right now. Like it just
jump over a 3-foot log.
100%. I can rip down. Heck, we were going down our local trail recently, and we went past a pretty decent sized double jump, and Ed Sauls goes, Are you going to hit that? And I'm like, no, not right now. So the next time, me and Paul did a hot lap, and me and him were flying.
Yeah.
And he was on my wheel, and one of the ways I thought I could get separation is if I hit this double. So I launched the double, but I won't race a crit. I won't race a crit because when I launched that double, I knew everything that was going on was under my control, right? If I didn't do this right, or if I did that right, blah blah blah, I had all control of everything. But in a crit, man, I don't know how I would react if I crashed and destroyed my bike, and knowing that it was someone else's fault.
Yeah.
And knowing that that's just
here's the thing though. Dave has raced so many crits and watched so many people ride. I believe, you can tell me if I'm wrong, Dave, you feel the same sort of comfort. You're already predicting what people are going to do in the second to last corner long before you ever get there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It's like you said, you've ridden with these people time and time again. I know how you're going to react. I've ridden with you enough to know how you're going to react. But me entering a crit, I'm not going to know what everybody around me is going to do. And if I crashed my bike, ruined my bike, got up and everybody just chalked it up to, that's crit racing.
Right.
Bro, I don't know how I would react. Right? I'm like, someone's got to pay for something.
Yeah, let me see your insurance card here.
Someone's got to pay for something, right? So I know what's right for me and what I shouldn't do. And crits to me right now, they scare me. I'm okay with admitting that I'm too scared to race a crit. It's all right. It's fun, right? It's fun. You know what? Me being too scared to race a crit keeps everybody that's not scared from safe. Right? Because they keep me being in a crit, being scared, endangers everybody around.
That's true.
So the scared guys, stay out. Right? If you're scared, just stay out.
Right.
But so we know about your bike. We know about your snakes. We know about the legend of Dave Osborne.
Oh yeah, I didn't finish. So I went from category earlier. We were talking about. I went from category 4, then I got forced up to cat 3. Like one race, I won so many races, probably at that time more than 100, and then the races are like, I was in a race in Pennsylvania, the Race Avenue Criterium, and the cat 4s pretty much were like, we're not racing anymore. He needs to upgrade. So I got forced up right there on the line.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you win that race?
No, I got 5th actually.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the same happened in cat 3. I stayed at cat 3 so long, and I learned so many tactics because I was able to do a lot of things in the race. Then I moved up to cat 2, And then once I got to 2, I went from 2 to 1 really fast because at that time, if you're a 2 and a 1, it didn't really make much difference. But it didn't. He kept 2 races, so.
Right. So who's your favorite lead out dude out of all time that you've been racing and riding? If you had a teammate that was your lead out guy, who would that be? We're gonna kind of put you on. That's kind of throwing you under the bus a little bit because it may not be someone you ride with right now.
No, but you're gonna be surprised at this answer. I have never won a race. Let me see. From a teammate leading me out, if you can believe that.
Wow. That's what we were saying. That's 100% like we were saying. At a high level right now, at a high level of criterium racing, we're talking Legion.
You're talking Masters now. So
can you win a race without a good team around you right now? At a high level.
Yeah, I've seen it done.
It
depends on the rider. The rider has to be super savvy. First of all, you have to be really strong, and you have to be so savvy that you can play off of other teams. It's not easy, but I've seen it done quite a few times.
You think right now? See, and again, Dave, trust me. Like I said, you're one of my idols, brother. So I'm not disrespecting your thoughts, but check it. I honestly think at that high of a level, we're talking crit nats.
Yeah. And
you go into crit. I don't even know how it would happen. I don't know how a solo guy could go into crit nats.
You can.
You can, but I mean, Okay.
Good.
So at Crit Nationals, you think that some guy, maybe a guy who just won the national TT, he's a TT guy. He goes off the front, he wins it that way. Okay, I get that. But I don't think someone can be competitive without a strong team now.
Now check this out. This year in the Crit Nats, male and female, the riders that won were solo riders. In the women,
they went off the front though, right?
Oh no! In the men, a guy named Luke Lampardi. He raced primarily in Europe, but he came and he was battling all the teams, and he wound up winning the crit as a solo rider.
Wow.
And Corin, it used to be Corin Rivera, but it's Corin Ledecky, I think. Anyway, she's on Yumbo, and she won the women's Crit Nationals solo.
Wow. But see, I'm proven wrong.
But those two riders are Europe. She rides World Tour, so she's another level.
But I think a World Tour rider, I feel like a lot of people mistaken U.S. crits and say, well, if he's so fast, why isn't he racing here? Or if she's so fast, why is she racing here? And not realize that it's almost like comparing soccer to baseball, right? Like, yeah, they both have balls in them, but they're not the same sport. You can't compare a Grand Tour, because that's the first thing I hear to people, like, if Corey Williams is so fast, then why isn't he racing in the Tour? It's completely a different thing.
It's another.
You can't say this or that. It doesn't mean that they're not world-class level,
right? Because
they race Tour. And it doesn't mean because you race in the Tour that you're going to come and compete against someone in a criterium race and win.
Right.
That's not the case.
Right. You're not going to get a World Tour guy come and beat up on Legion.
No, not without a team.
Not without a team.
Not without a team. I'm not saying it's not possible, but he better call a handful of friends.
And you're not going to get Corey to go over there
and beat up on them. No. So,
right, we're coming to the end, so we're going to get their parting questions.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, who was the person who taught you how to ride a bike?
Me.
You don't have like that cool uncle who was like, come on, boy, we're gonna go out back. I'm gonna teach you how to ride a bike.
Oh, you mean taught me how to ride a two-wheeler bike?
Yeah.
Man, that was back in 19. That was I was a kid, and I had training wheels. You know, they don't really do that anymore because of the Strider bikes.
Right.
But I had, training wheels, and they start tilting to the side, and next thing you know, you're riding on two wheels, and you don't even realize it because the wheels have bent up.
Right. Right.
So I'm like, what? So then they finally take them off, and you're all excited. You're a kid, so the training wheels pretty much taught me how to ride a two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you remember your first bike after they got rid of that bike, that training wheel bike? Do you remember your first bike that you had?
Oh, probably like a 2-seat. The banana seat bikes, the old school, not the Schwinn with the shot. The Schwinn that has the.
What was the first bike that you said, all right, that's a bike that I remember the model, I remember that bike?
My Peugeot. I had an old Peugeot when I first started racing with the high top Adidas and the Peugeot t-shirt. It wasn't a racing bike, but I had this obsession with Peugeot cycles because I used to like the team jersey. So I probably have about 7 Peugeot kits. Peugeot.
Yeah.
So it was the old Peugeot bike.
Yeah, I wrecked a Peugeot. It was my godbrother Dwayne's. He had it remade, and I took it in the woods and just destroyed his bike when he was away at college. It was a nice bike, really nice bike. He had custom painted all kinds of stuff.
This is why you hate cycling.
I destroyed that bike. I still to this day owe him a bike.
Oh man! So my first real bike was a green Cannondale. It was a Cannondale Criterium frame, way back in the day. But that was my actual first real racing bike. And it was like night and day. It was much lighter, much more responsive. And once I got that bike, I was Cat 4, but I went on a winning streak. It was like I had a motor on the bike. It went from, the Peugeot to the Cannondale.
That's so cool.
Wow, this bike.
That's good.
All right, so you can decline to answer this, Dave, but how old are you? And how long do you think you're going to race? This is a good question.
People don't believe me, but I am 60 years old now. And honestly, I'm ready to retire right now.
Really?
But I can, but it's like people keep joining the team, and I'm like so motivated to help everybody. I guess I don't have to race, but I'll go to the race to help support them, and I'm there. So sometimes I might as well jump in the race since I'm there. But
in your head, what does retirement look like
from racing?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
just go. I'll still do the Winding Up Wednesday, which is a race anyway, and one. So I'll be retired from probably pinning on a number.
Okay, all right.
I've already toned back. So I don't do near as many races. In my prime, I did like 65 races a year, if you could believe it.
Wow.
Yeah.
that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of races.
I believe it, though.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Dave, we appreciate you coming on. We really do. It's great to talk to you. We'll see you in a Wednesday, I'm sure, coming up. Not too long. Shelton says, "Don't let Dave stop racing." Just so we're clear. So.
Yeah, I don't think Dave.
I don't think you have it in you to stop.
Dave will let Dave stop racing.
You're still competitive, Dave. That's the. It's not like you're 60 and you're out the back. You're not.
No.
So.
And since I've been racing, I've at least, I say one race, but I've won a race every year from the day I started racing.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
But they're getting fewer and fewer,
That's all right.
Are you going to race cyclocross this year? I always ask you. Every year I ask you that.
I'll be your number one supporter. I'll come and watch.
Dave, thanks for joining us. Really.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for being an inspiration to a lot of people. You don't know how many people you affect. I hope maybe you do, but you're an inspiration. You're a great guy. And thank you for being a friend, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, man.
We'll see you soon, brother.
Right, you too. Thanks.